Hello, my spooky friends, and welcome back, or welcome to my channel. I am so happy to see you today, as today we have another true crime ASMR video for you to enjoy. Today we will be diving in the case of Marcellus Williams. We will be diving in while I have my Buddy Holly glasses on. I like them, you know. But today we will be diving in to the Marcellus Williams case. Marcellus Williams was charged and convicted of the murder of Felicia Ann Gale Pekas. She was murdered during a burglary in her gated community. Leisha is how we will call her for the rest of this video. She was found dead in her home and had been stabbed up to 43 times with a butcher's knife that was taken from her kitchen. So that is today's case. If you have recommendations for future videos, please let me know in the comments below. As always, I will be adding this case to my true crime ASMR series playlist. And this is where you can find past and future videos in this series. So, let's get into it. Leisha Gale was born on February 5th, 1956. She was born in Rockford, Illinois, where she was also raised. She graduated from the University of Illinois with a degree in journalism before working as a reporter for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. And she would stay there until 1992. She left the newspaper to pursue more philanthropy and volunteer work, which included mentoring, tutoring disadvantaged children. In 1979, she married Dr. Daniel Pekas, who led the interventional radiology department at Barnes Jewish Hospital in St. Louis. Marcellus Williams was born on December 30th, 1968. He was born in South Bend, Indiana, and at the age of 5, he, his mother, and his 2 brothers moved to St. Louis, Missouri. Marcellus grew up in a troubled and impoverished household where he experienced early exposure to alcohol, drugs, and guns. He was subjected to violent and sexual and physical abuse from family members. His parents abandoned him, and crime and substance abuse was prevalent in his family. The defense said that after becoming a father and marrying a single mother with a daughter, Williams was profoundly affected by the death of his older brother in 1997. And this was Marcellus's real father figure. That same year, he burglarized a home and was incarcerated for armed robbery of a donut shop in 1998. In total, Williams had 16 criminal convictions prior to his murder trial. Second-degree burglary and stealing over $150 in 1988. Second-degree assault in 1988. Second-degree burglary in 1988. 2 counts each of second-degree burglary and stealing over $150 in 1991. First-degree robbery, armed criminal action, and unlawful use of a weapon in 2000. And first-degree robbery, armed criminal action, stealing a motor vehicle, and 2 counts of false imprisonment in 2000. Leisha's body was discovered by her husband at her home on the evening of August 11th, 1998. Police arrived to the scene at around 8 p.m. Officers found Gail in a fetal position with her left side covered in blood. She had been stabbed up to 43 times, and a large butcher's knife was found lodged in her neck. She also had stab wounds to her back, thigh, and 2 more in her neck. Authorities described defensive wounds to her hands and arms, including a large gash in her right elbow. Her purse, jacket, and her husband's Macintosh computer were stolen. Investigators noted in the initial police report that this came amidst a burglary spree in the neighborhood. In May 1999, Gail's family announced a $10,000 reward for information leading to an arrest and conviction in this case. 2 individuals, Henry Cole and Laura Asaro, named Marcellus Scott Williams as the culprit. Cole received a $5,000 reward for his testimony, while Asaro did not request any reward for coming forward. Williams had an extensive criminal record. Cole volunteered that Williams had made a jailhouse confession to him when they were both in jail on charges related to murder. Cole had been released before volunteering his information. Williams had started serving a 20-year sentence for robbing a donut shop. Laura Asaro, the girlfriend of Williams at the time of the crime, gave testimony that Williams had confessed to her and detailed what had happened. Asaro testified that she found a purse with Gail's identification in Williams' car. She also testified that she saw scratches on William's neck, blood on his shirt, and a laptop in his car. Unlike Cole's deposition, which was compatible with news reports, she is said to have provided details that had not been mentioned in the public accounts of the crime. Prosecutors described physical evidence at the crime scene itself as inconclusive, as a shoe print, fingerprints, and hair found at the scene did not match Williams. A knife found at the scene had traces of DNA, but due to the killer wearing gloves, it only matched those of prosecution team members who handled it after it had been forensically tested and found to have no fingerprints on it. A search of William's car turned up a St. Louis Post Dispatch ruler and calculator that had belonged to Gail, or Leisha. A laptop stolen from Leisha's home was also recovered from a man who testified that Williams had sold the victim's laptop to him. Williams was convicted of first-degree murder in 2001 and received a death sentence. While in prison, Williams studied Islam and wrote poetry. He was also disciplined over 100 times while incarcerated, including verbal and physical altercations with inmates and corrections officers, and a threat to kill a corrections officer at the St. Louis City Workhouse in 1999. Williams was held on death row at Potosi Correctional Center after his trial. He maintained his innocence in the Leisha case until he accepted an Alford plea of guilty in August of 2024. His case was appealed unsuccessfully several times. He was first scheduled to be executed by lethal injection in 2015. In appeals, his defense produced evidence that DNA taken from the knife at the scene revealed an unknown male profile. This, however, was later revealed to belong to the male prosecutor who had handled the knife. And this DNA obviously did not match Williams. Despite this, Williams was rescheduled for execution on August 22nd, 2017. Questions continued to be raised as the state Supreme Court would neither hear the new DNA evidence nor postpone the execution. The prosecutor said they were confident about the case despite the DNA, as DNA evidence had never formed any part of the basis of the conviction. Eric Greitens, issued a last-minute stay of execution that day. The governor initiated a board of inquiry to examine the new DNA evidence and other aspects of the case. The board was headed by Carol Jackson, who was a former federal judge of the Eastern District of Missouri, and consisted of 5 retired federal judges to review the case. It subpoenaed both prosecution and the defense. The board was also to meet with the state and defense attorneys in June 2018. Greitens resigned as governor in June 2018. The DNA evidence and new analysis did not match Williams, as we just stated, later revealed to belong to the prosecutor who mishandled the knife. Which I feel bad because these people had like this last inkling of hope that this wasn't Marcellus and that they were able to delay his prosecution, but alas. The board had hearings in August 2018. Governor Mike Parson was to receive the board's conclusion and make his decision. In June 2023, Parson decided to dissolve the panel of 5 judges without receiving their report and lifted the stay on Williams' execution, as he claimed it was time for the court to make a decision. Later, State Attorney General Andrew Bailey asked the state Supreme Court to set a date for Williams' execution. In August 2023, the Midwest Innocence Project filed a lawsuit stating that St. Louis County prosecuting attorney is on record as stating he has convincing evidence of Williams' innocence and questioned the governor's right regarding the dissolution of the inquiry board. The Innocence Project alleged that the Missouri Attorney General's office has a record of dismissing DNA evidence that points to an accused person's innocence. On January 27, 2024, St. Louis County prosecuting attorney Wesley Bell filed a motion in the St. Louis County Circuit Court asking the court to vacate Marcellus Williams' death sentence. A 2021 Missouri law allows a prosecutor to intervene where there is information suggesting a convicted person may be innocent. He cited potential ineffective assistance of counsel, apparent bias in jury selection, and potential weakness of the police investigation. He asked the court for a hearing to consider the new evidence and other aspects of the investigation and trial. The new evidence consisted of a special prosecutor's review of the case, including the findings of 3 independent DNA experts who unanimously concluded that the male DNA on the murder weapon was not Williams. Rather, it belonged to an investigator and assistant prosecuting attorney who had handled the murder weapon without wearing gloves. A hearing was scheduled for August 21st, 2024 to determine his innocence. On June 4th, 2024, Williams was again scheduled to be executed on September 24th, 2024. On July 2nd, the Circuit Court of St. Louis County, Missouri, scheduled a hearing for August 21st, 2024, to evaluate the supposed evidence of Williams's innocence. On July 12th, 2024, the Missouri Supreme Court ruled that his execution would move forward despite the pending lawsuit to overturn his conviction. In the court's opinion overruling the motion, Justice Zell Fisher ruled that they do not have the procedural authority to withdraw the execution order at this time. On August 21st, 2024, Williams accepted a plea bargain offered by the prosecution to commute his death sentence to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The prosecutors argued in favor of Williams during the hearing, pointing out that the DNA on the murder weapon was not his and that they had duly considered this fact before offering him an Alford plea to vacate his death sentence. However, the state attorney general, Andrew Bailey, opposed this decision and wanted the execution to move forward as scheduled. The Missouri Supreme Court blocked the plea deal agreement on the same day, and Williams' execution date remained September 24th, 2024. On September 12th, 2024, St. Louis County Circuit Judge Bruce Hilton rejected Williams' appeal, stating that the counsel was rehashing their arguments from previous appeals, all of which had been rejected multiple times by the state and federal courts, and ordered that the execution should move forward as scheduled. On September 24th, 2024, Parson denied Williams' clemency, and the case was reviewed by the United States Supreme Court hours before the scheduled execution. The Supreme Court denied the request to halt the execution, although Justices Sonia Sotomayor, Elena Kagan, and Ketanji Brown Jackson stated that they would have granted the request. Despite pleas from the public on September 24th, 2024, 55-year-old Williams was executed by lethal injection at 6 p.m. At Eastern Reception Diagnostic and Correctional Center in Bonne Terre, Missouri. For his last meal, Williams was served chicken wings and tater tots. In a statement, the office of Missouri Governor Mike Parson justified Williams' execution, citing, among other things, his prior criminal record and his alleged behavior in prison, which included attacking other inmates and threatening correctional officers. Williams had converted to Islam in prison, taking up the name Khalifa and becoming an imam, leading prayers in his cell block. Described as a kind and thoughtful man by his lead defense attorney, Williams also dedicated his time in prison to poetry. This garnered his cause attention from the pro-Palestinian movement in the U.S. and discussion about Black Palestinian solidarity. His last statement was, "All praise be to Allah in every situation." He was cremated and his ashes thrown into the Big River. So, that is the case of Marcellus Williams. Now, for my thoughts on this one, I think it's a very touchy subject. I think that despite the DNA not placing him there, I think that is a very major missing component, because everything can be considered circumstantial, but and even Leisha's family were against the execution of Marcellus. I would like to point that out as well. Many people were against him being executed. But despite everything being circumstantial, I think there's too much here to kind of count him out as much as I would like to. I think at the very least he was involved in knowing what happened. And there was too much that he had that tied him back to Leisha to kind of convince me that he wasn't at the very least involved. Just some of these, it's just the topic is a little bit too much touch and go, you know. And I just don't want to say anything to offend anybody, but I do believe at the end of the day that Williams was at least involved, and that's where we'll leave it. So, I know today's video was a little bit shorter than most, but I hope that you found it informative and relaxing. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. And as always, I will be adding this video to my True Crime ASMR series playlist, where you can find past and future videos in this series. So, thank you so much, and spooky.